Well, hey folks, we're back at it with the greenhouse again, and Brian's down in the pit. So we're going to catch up with him where he left off last weekend as far as measuring out where the footings are going to go for the greenhouse. Now the good news is that our greenhouse has been shipped. We are expecting it to arrive mid-month, so we're getting ready. Are we going to be ready to build it by the time it gets here? Well, the jury's out, but we'd have to get the footings in first. So let's go show you what Brian is up to where he left off last weekend.
So where we're at is we've laid out all our corner points on the ground. And the reference was the center peg there, and then the north peg here. So then we measured from the north peg over and then matched it up with the distance from center. And then we continued, so all these lengths, there's 10 lengths that are the same, and then there's 5 lengths that are the same. And the 5 lengths, so it's 2 6'10" 1/4", and then a 8 foot, or 6 foot 8 1/2. And then 2 more 6 foot 10 1/4, and it just works around. So, and it's all based off the center of 16 foot 4 1/2". So for some reason though, we did both sides from the north stake. We went from here that way, and then from here counterclockwise and clockwise. We get to the last segment over there, and we're 2 1/4 inches long for some reason. If you run a straight line from the north peg through the center, we're exactly in the center. We're pretty darn close to the center of that segment, so, but I'm not sure why that's off, that distance. So anyway, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna make a stencil. Instead of having string marking all the way around, I'm gonna make a stencil out of wood. All the stakes are the reference, so the stencil will just butt up on one side, and then I'll just spray paint the outside of the stencil on the ground and then go to the next one. So everything inside the sprayed mark is the footing that I need to dig out. So it'll be a 20-inch wide by 8 inches deep. Then we could, once I'm digging, I can take out these rebars. Then I can use them for the leveling of the footing. So we just hammer them into the precise depth and level all the way around, and we have a new leveler for that. And then we pour concrete and we level it to those stakes. When we did the house, we used 2x10s for the footings. Here we're using the soil.
Okay.
But we're gonna have to be more precise for the walls, so we can't not be precise.
So you guys know Brian pretty well, and he's not satisfied with being off any amount of inches on his measurements. So he actually took the time to remeasure everything and adjust the rebar pins by like 3/8 of an inch. And he actually gained back 2 inches. So overall, he was only off about 3/4 of an inch, which he was happier with. So what he did basically was move the rebar closer to the radius, the center of the circle. So he just moved it in slightly, and he was able to gain back those 2 inches that he was off on one particular side. It's kind of hard to explain, but because the dome isn't exactly a circle, it's just a bunch of sides. I think there's like 20 sides to it. It was just a lot of measuring, and so now he's feeling more comfortable about going ahead and digging those footings. So this is the part where Brian was talking about making a stencil for pouring the footings. So he's spray painting a template, and then he's going to dig out the template by hand. And that way, saving on any costs for wood, for making any sort of footer forms. He's just using the dirt to do that. And now we're down to the nitty-gritty, which is the actual digging of the forms. Now, we hired an excavator professionally because there's so many rocks. So you can imagine there was a lot of rocks that are going to have to be chiseled out. So Brian's using the Weaver hammer drill to actually chop up some of those bedrock rocks that are stuck in there. But you know, he's making his way around the dome, getting all of those dirt and rocks out for the footings. All right, guys, well, it's getting exciting. The footings are underway. The greenhouse is getting delivered on Monday, but you know, we can't really grow anything just yet. It's going to take a while. It's going to take several weeks to get our dome constructed, but I don't want to wait any longer as far as it comes to growing plants and gardening. So behind me, I've got some compost here, I've got some seed starts, and I've got a brand new tool. Brand new tool for growing called GardenSoxx. Yeah, it looks like a giant sock, but apparently you can actually grow your garden inside of this sock and have a more successful garden with less fuss. So I'm going to tell you all about it. The GardenSoxx is made out of a unique mesh material that allows for better aeration and drainage, and it allows you to garden where you can't garden. You can fill your tube with soil or compost and basically put it anywhere. You don't have to dig a garden, you don't have to rototill, you don't even have to have land. You could do it on a deck. But it gives you more options for growing in a smaller, compact area. And this is what I'm trying out. So apparently, because of the aeration and the design of it, you can grow plants in 100% compost. Now that's something that you don't normally do, but that's what I'm going to attempt. I've got the bag of compost behind me. I'm going to put it in the bucket. We're going to set up the garden tube and show you how it works. So I'm trying out GardenSoxx 4x4 kit. It comes with a 25-foot roll of 8-inch diameter sock, and it also, the kit comes with an irrigation system. So you've got your drip tape, your fittings, and your hose connector. So if you want to cover all your bases as far as irrigation goes, I'd recommend getting the kit over just the socks. If you plan on doing more manual watering, you don't have to worry about the irrigation part as much. But the cool thing about the socks is that you can cut any length you want. It's one continuous tube. Since I don't have a whole lot of plants at the moment, I'm just going to do one small section of the GardenSoxx until I get more plants. I have 5 seed plants, and so I'm going to do one small 2-foot section for those. And then I'm going to do a separate section for my seeds. I'm planting a lot of columbines this year because I've been using it in my artwork. So I'll do 2 separate GardenSoxx, one with the seed starts and one with just seeds. Pretty easy to cut. You can just use regular scissors. And let me get one more length so I can do the seeds. All right, got 2 socks and plenty of leftover. I'll be using this more as we get into more gardening, and I'm going to be excited to do a compare and contrast with GardenSoxx versus raised bed gardening. So this is the second section. Gonna tie off the ends. Okay, got my 2 socks, and now it's time to fill it with the compost. Might go ahead and use this tube as an assistant to kind of hold my sock open. really packs down quite a bit. Every time I lift it out, I have more room. So as you can see, the sock really stretches. It's kind of a little bit lumpy looking, but I'm going to try to pack in as much as I can so I can have nice fat beds to put my plant starters in. All right, well, I decided to fill it to the top. So I'm going to tie it off with a little bit of wire instead of tying a knot. So that way I can get more sock and not waste it in the knot. Just twirl it up here and wind it up with this wire. Okay, sock number 1 done. Now I'm going to work on number 2. Okay, sock number 2 done. So now what's next? I'm going to pre-water these, and then I'm going to cut the holes for where we're going to put the plants. I'm just going to pre-moisten everything. Got 5 seedlings, so I'm thinking, now if you go to the website, the GardenSoxx website, there is suggestions for spacing on different plants, especially some plants that are bigger and they require more energy. They might need more spacing, or smaller plants can get away with less spacing. So I'm just gonna see what I can do. I'm gonna put all 5 on this one 2-foot section, and we'll see what happens. I've heard stories anecdotally that someone had put 12 tomato plants in a 2-foot section and they did fantastic. So we're going to definitely challenge what the GardenSoxx can do. Growing in 100% compost, putting in seed starts versus just seeds on this one. So it looks like if I kind of space like this, it looks like I can fit all 5 of my plants, and so I'm going to cut a little bit of hole into the mesh and then embed the plants in there. All right, so pretty easy to cut holes, and now just putting these plants in. So that one was a spaghetti squash. This one is Tulsi basil, which is a really potent antioxidant and superfood, Tulsi basil. And then I put lavender over here. And then I'll do cucumber right here. And the last one is winter squash. On the end, I know these plants can get pretty big. Okay. All right, well, that looks pretty good for one sock, and the other sock's gonna get the seed mix. So, and this is the Rocky Mountain Blue Columbine, state flower of Colorado. I use this a lot in my artwork and always sell out because people love the columbine, and the seeds are super tiny. So I'm gonna try this. Okay, definitely stretching the limits here. So 3 seeds or so, let's try it. Probably not being as conservative as I should be. I'm just loading this thing up with seeds to see what will happen. All right, guys, so here we go. We've got our GardenSoxx filled with our seed starts on one and seeds on the other. Now, the next step would be to set up the drip irrigation system with the drip tape and the connectors. I'm not going to do it right at this minute. When we get set up in the greenhouse, using a drip system is probably going to be the most efficient. So I can just turn the tap on and everything can kind of water itself rather than having to go around and around. Anyhow, how you would do it would be to cut to length. use your connectors to sort of connect two tapes next to each other. When you're ready to connect it to the hose, you would use this piece and cut another length so you can have it all be one continuous system. And then this is definitely a key part of getting the kit, is to be able to do an irrigation system. You can hook it up to automated systems or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, so you can be totally hands-off and you can just have everything water itself just by being hooked up to the hose. So I will keep you guys posted on how the GardenSoxx do. I'll have a link in the video description so you can get a discount on it. The kits are very affordable, especially if you don't want to deal with making a raised bed, building something like this that I built in the past. If you don't have to do any rototilling, you don't even have to have a ton of space. Look at all the plants I'm attempting to grow in just, 2 square feet of space. So it's a time saver, it's an energy saver, it's a space saver, and a resource saver. So definitely, guys, if you're thinking about getting into gardening this summer but just don't have the energy for it, I think you could do what I just did with a GardenSoxx. Get a bag of compost, fill it, and have something on your patio or your deck or anywhere you might have a small amount of space. And you might be able to do gardening this summer after all. All right, guys, we'll keep you posted, especially with the greenhouse arrival next week. All right, take care.